The wind whispered through the pines above Hollow Creek, like it carried secrets too old to speak aloud. The land was raw out there and tamed, and far from the reach of law or mercy. Winter came early that year, dusting the peaks with snow, and biting the air with warning. In a crumbling log cabin nestled in the shadow of the hills, a girl lay curled in the corner like an animal trying to survive the cold. Her name was Clara Belle, 14 winters old, boots too big for her feet, and eyes too smart for her father's liking. He called her stubborn, willful, and sometimes worse names laced with whiskey and rage. Her father, Jedediah Barnes, had once been a respected trapper, but after her mother died birthing Clara, something in him rotted. He blamed the girl for that death, and as the years went by, that blame festered into hate. Clara had long since stopped trying to win him over. On a bitter gray morning, Clara awoke to silence. The cabin was cold, the fire dead. She sat up, blinking sleep from her eyes, and noticed her father's rifle and gear were gone. So was the mule, and so was the food. She stepped outside, barefoot into the snow-crusted earth. A note was tacked to the door with the tip of a hunting knife. It read, "You're old enough now. Make your own way, or don't." No signature. No goodbye. She stared at the words for a long time, the wind tugging at her nightdress like fingers. Then, she tore the note down, shoved it into the pocket of her coat, and walked back inside. She didn't cry. 3 days passed. She rationed what she could: dried meat scraps, the last hard biscuit, snow melted in a tin cup. She tried to light the fire but couldn't keep it going. Her fingers turned numb. Her lips cracked from cold. On the 4th day, she left the cabin with nothing but a rusty hatchet and a worn blanket tied around her shoulders. She walked toward the trees, toward the unknown by dusk. Her legs gave out near the edge of the ravine where Hollow Creek curved like a snake through the forest. She collapsed beside a boulder, barely breathing, and whispered, "Mama, I tried." Snow began to fall, and the world faded. But fate wasn't done with Clara Belle. From the ridge above, silhouette stood still, as stone a man cloaked in fur, his long black braid tied with a strip of rawhide. His face was painted in ash and ochre, blending into the forest like shadow. He had been tracking game when he spotted her from afar, a figure too small, too broken to belong in the wild alone. His name was Tasu Kaviaka, Silent Horse, of the Lakota, and though he was feared by many on the frontier, he did not fear kindness. He moved to her quietly, kneeling by her side. Her lips were blue, her pulse thin. He opened his elk-hide satchel and placed warm stones beneath her arms and neck. Then he covered her with his own buffalo cloak and whispered to her in Lakota Mitkawa Wikyog, "You will not die here." She didn't stir, but she was still alive. Before dawn, he had built a shelter from pine boughs and started a fire with flint and steel. He made her drink broth boiled with roots and wild onion. He did not ask who she was or why she was alone. He only watched her chest rise and fall and waited. Somewhere between life and death, Clara Belle dreamed of warm hands and firelight, of a voice that didn't shout or curse. And when her eyes finally opened, she saw him there, the warrior with eyes like midnight and patience like the earth itself. She blinked, tried to speak. Only a rasp came out. "Who are you?" He gave her no name, only this: "You were not meant to die." Clara Belle's breath came in shallow gulps. Her lips were chapped, her limbs stiff, but she was alive. Somehow, the man who saved her didn't speak much, not in words she understood, but there was no cruelty in him, no sharpness behind the eyes. He moved like part of the land, quiet, deliberate, calm. His hands, when they helped her sit up or passed her a warm broth of wild herbs, were calloused but gentle. He didn't ask questions, he didn't need to. For 2 days, she drifted in and out of sleep inside the pine bough shelter. When the fever broke and she could finally sit upright, she noticed the small things. The way he always placed his knife within reach, but never closer than her comfort allowed. The way he looked away when she pulled the blanket tighter around herself. The way he spoke to the fire like it could understand. She wanted to ask his name. She tried, her voice cracked. "You got a name?" He turned to her slowly. A breeze whispered between the trees. Finally, he said, "Tasu Kaviaka." She blinked. "Is that Lakota?" He nodded once. "What's it mean?" "Silent Horse." She gave a faint, amused smile. Fitting. Once her strength returned, he helped her stand. Her legs shook. Her body was still thin from days of starvation, but she was mending. The cold had backed off. Spring teased the forest with softer air and green buds. They didn't speak much, but they didn't need to. In the wilderness, silence had meaning. He taught her how to read tracks in the mud: elk, rabbit, even bear. He showed her how to start a fire with flint, to braid cord from bark, and to listen. Really listen. She asked him once why he didn't just take her back to the nearest white town. He only said, "Town forgets girls like you. Land remembers." It wasn't the answer she expected, but it was the truth. One morning, Clara woke to the sound of a knife slicing clean through bark. Silent Horse was carving something into a flat piece of wood. Symbols she didn't recognize. "What's that?" she asked. He turned it toward her. "A spiral, a bird, a small tree. Your path. Changing." Clara tilted her head. "And what was it before?" He pointed to a jagged line he'd already carved. "Lost." That night, she finally told him about her father, the drunken cruelty, the isolation, the note on the door. Silent Horse didn't speak for a long time after. Then he said, "Some men cut with words, some cut with silence. Both leave scars." Clara nodded. "Guess I have both." "You will carry them," he said, "but you don't have to be them." They lived in the wild for 3 more weeks. Clara learned fast. She was a frontier girl, after all, born of grit and survival. But now, she had purpose. Her hands stopped shaking when she held a knife. Her mind grew sharp like flint. She laughed again quietly, but genuinely. She no longer flinched at the wind through the trees, or at her own thoughts. Then one morning, Silent Horse told her they would leave the shelter. He didn't say why, but Clara noticed how his shoulders tensed, how his eyes stayed fixed on the ridgeline. They were being followed. She didn't know by who yet, but she knew enough to trust him. As they packed their belongings, she asked, "Where are we going?" He looked her in the eye for the first time that morning. To finish something. The first light of dawn crept softly over the forest, painting long shadows across the mossy ground. Clara and Silent Horse moved quietly. The rustle of pine needles beneath their boots the only sound in the stillness. Behind them, the whisper of horse hooves and harsh voices carried on the wind. They were being hunted. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. But she kept her face calm, learning quickly from Silent Horse's steady presence. The man moved like a shadow, blending seamlessly into the wilderness. He led her through hidden trails and secret crossings, places she would never have found on her own. "Who are they?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Men who want to see you broken," he replied. "Men who fear what you represent." Clara frowned. "What do I represent?" "Hope," he said simply. "And danger." Hours passed as they slipped deeper into the forest. The sun rose higher, dappling the ground with warm light. But the threat lingered suddenly. Silent Horse halted, raising a hand to stop Clara. Up ahead, a group of riders emerged from the trees, rough men in worn coats, faces lined with hatred and scars. Among them, a tall figure sat astride a black stallion. His eyes burned with cold fury. Clara swallowed hard. The leader of the posse was none other than Jedediah Barnes, her father. Her breath caught in her throat. Memories flooded her, his cruel words, the nights she'd spent hiding, the day he left her to die. Silent Horse crouched low beside her. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. "We face this together." Clara nodded, fear tempered by a newfound strength. The men dismounted, surrounding the clearing where Clara and Silent Horse waited. Jedediah's eyes locked onto his daughter, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "You thought you could run," he sneered. "You're nothing but a burden. A mistake I'm here to correct." Clara's fists clenched. Silent Horse stepped forward, his calm presence a stark contrast to the burning hatred before them. "Your fight is over, Barnes," he said. "Leave the girl be." Jedediah laughed, bitter and hard. "This ends today." The air grew thick with tension. Without warning, Jedediah drew his rifle. The crack of the shot echoed through the trees. Silent Horse dove, pulling Clara down behind a fallen log. Bullets flew. Dust and leaves kicked up in a fierce battle that pitted desperation against determination. Clara, despite her fear, found herself moving with purpose, grabbing a fallen branch, helping Silent Horse when he was pushed back by a bullet grazing his arm. In the chaos, Clara shouted, "Father, why are you doing this?" Jedediah's eyes were wild. "Because you're mine, and I will end this shame." "No," Clara said, voice strong despite the trembling. "I'm not your shame. I'm my own person." The words hit him like a blow. After a tense, desperate fight, Silent Horse managed to disarm Jedediah. The posse, seeing their leader defeated, scattered into the woods. Silent Horse knelt beside Clara. "You are free," he said softly. Clara looked at her father, who sat slumped against a tree, broken in body and spirit. That night, by the campfire, Clara stared into the flames. Her father's cruelty had almost ended her, but it was the courage of a stranger, a Lakota warrior, that had saved her, and now, she was ready to forge her own path. The night air was crisp, stars blinking like watchful eyes above the camp. Clara sat close to the fire, its warmth chasing away the chill that still clung to her bones. Silent Horse tended the flames with practiced ease, his face calm but thoughtful. In the flickering light, the forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Clara's mind was tangled with memories. Her father's harsh words, the empty cabin, the cold nights alone. But now, sitting beside the man who had saved her, something inside her was shifting. She broke the silence, her voice soft. "Why did you help me?" Silent Horse looked up from the fire, his dark eyes reflecting the dancing flames. "Because, your life is part of the land now. The land does not abandon its own." She considered this, the weight of his words settling into her heart. Days passed in a gentle rhythm. Silent Horse taught Clara how to tend to wounds using herbs gathered from the forest. He showed her how to weave bark into cord, build shelters, and track animals, not just to hunt, but to understand. In return, Clara shared stories of the settlers, of the towns and families, of the bitter loneliness she'd endured. They were two worlds, meeting at the crossroads of survival and trust. One afternoon, while gathering medicinal plants near a bubbling stream, Clara stumbled upon a patch of wild violets. Their delicate purple petals seemed to glow against the green. Silent Horse smiled softly. "The violets are strong, yet gentle. They teach us healing comes in many forms." He crushed some leaves into a poultice and applied it to the scars on Clara's arms, reminders of a past that refused to fade. "I want to heal," Clara said, voice barely above a whisper. "You already have begun," Silent Horse replied. The firelight grew warmer each evening as Clara's strength returned, but the scars within her heart remained hidden beneath her quiet smiles. One night, under the glow of a full moon, Silent Horse shared a story, one of his own losses and the battles he had fought. Not just with guns, but with sorrow. He spoke of a brother lost to war, a people pushed to the edges, and a land that had witnessed both cruelty and courage. Moved by his story, Clara realized that courage wasn't just about fighting. It was about surviving the pain and choosing hope anyway. Her heart began to mend. One day at a time, the forest around them blossomed with spring's promise, and with it, a new beginning for Clara Belle. The healing fire inside her burned brighter than ever. The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, washing the forest in soft gold. Clara stood at the edge of the clearing, watching as Silent Horse prepared their camp for the day. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of pine and earth. She felt different, as stronger, lighter, as if the weight of the past was lifting. Silent Horse approached, carrying a bundle wrapped in deer hide. "Today, you will learn to hunt." Clara's eyes widened. "Hunt? I've never done that." He smiled gently. "Then it is time." He led her deeper into the forest, teaching her to move silently, to watch the subtle signs left by animals. He showed her how to steady her breath and calm her heart. For hours, they followed tracks, crouched behind bushes, and waited patiently. At last, Clara spotted a doe drinking from a stream. Her pulse quickened. Silent Horse handed her a bow made from flexible wood and a single arrow fletched with feathers. "Take your time," he said softly. Clara drew the bowstring, her hands steady despite the pounding in her chest. She aimed carefully and released. The arrow flew true, striking the doe cleanly. Relief and pride swelled within her. Silent Horse nodded approvingly. "You have learned well." They worked together to dress the deer, every movement purposeful and respectful. That evening, as they shared the roasted meat by the fire, Clara felt a profound connection to the land and to Silent Horse. She looked up at the stars. "Do you think I can ever go back? To the town? To people?" Silent Horse's gaze was steady. "The land will always be part of you, but so will the choices you make. You decide who you want to be." Clara thought about her father, about the cruelty she'd endured. She felt a quiet fire inside, not of hatred, but of hope. "I want to live my own life," she said. "One where I'm not afraid." Silent Horse smiled. "That is a brave promise." As dawn gave way to day, Clara felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, her past, her future, and the wide, wild world in between. The morning fog clung to the trees like a shroud as Clara and Silent Horse journeyed beyond the familiar forest. The path ahead was uncertain, winding through rugged hills and shadowed valleys. Each step felt heavy with questions about where she truly belonged, and what the future held. Silent Horse moved with a quiet confidence, his senses alert to every sound and scent. Clara, though still learning, matched his pace, her mind racing with thoughts of the past she left behind and the life she hoped to build. They came to a fork in the trail. One path led toward a bustling town where settlers gathered, the place where Clara's story began, full of painful memories and broken ties. The other path wound deeper into the wilderness, toward the Lakota lands where Silent Horse's people lived, a place of tradition, community, and healing. Clara stopped, torn. Don't know which way to go, she admitted. Silent Horse looked at her with gentle eyes. The land offers many paths, but you must choose the one that calls to your heart. She thought of her father's cruelty, the cold cabin, the note that left her to die. She thought of the healing fire within her, kindled by a stranger's courage. Could she find a way to reclaim her past? Or was her future meant to be forged anew? As they stood at the crossroads, a soft breeze stirred the leaves, carrying a whispered promise of hope, of strength, and of the power to choose one's own destiny. Clara took a deep breath and stepped toward the path that felt right, not because it was easy, but because it was hers to walk. The sun rose slow and golden over the horizon, casting long shadows across the open plains. Clara Belle walked steadily, Silent Horse by her side. As they approached the edge of the Lakota village, the air was alive with the sounds of life, children laughing, the rhythmic pounding of drums, voices speaking a language both foreign and welcoming. For the first time in years, Clara felt a peace settle over her. The weight of her past cruelty, her abandonment, seemed to ease as the warmth of community wrapped around her like a blanket. Silent Horse led her through the village with quiet pride, introducing her to elders and children alike. An elder woman approached, her eyes sharp and kind. "You are welcome here," she said softly, placing a hand on Clara's shoulder. "This is a place of healing and strength." Clara nodded, tears prickling her eyes. That evening, beneath a sky filled with stars, Clara sat by the fire with Silent Horse. "I've lost so much," she whispered, "but here I feel like I can begin again." Silent Horse smiled. "Your story is not finished, Clara Belle. It is just beginning." In the days that followed, Clara learned the ways of the Lakota, their songs, their stories, their deep connection to the land. She found strength in tradition and friendship in the people who had once been strangers. One morning, as the sun spilled golden light over the village, Clara stood tall and strong. The scars of her past remained, but they no longer defined her. She was no longer the girl left to die. She was a woman reborn. Silent Horse stood beside her, a steadfast guardian and friend. Together, they faced the horizon where past and future met in the promise of a new dawn.